All right, welcome to this special edition of Budget Expectations 101. Today we are putting the spotlight on a sector that's become the backbone of modern industry. Of course, we'll have other things to talk about as well, but we will discuss semiconductors as well. What are the top expectations on the table? Let's break it down. Well, first up, experts are calling for the launch of India's Semiconductor Mission 2.0, backed by a fresh multi-billion-dollar allocation to fuel the next wave of semiconductors. To build the ecosystem, a new CLI scheme is being anticipated, offering subsidies for the specialized chemicals and photo-resistant essential for chip making. For our startups, look for an increased fiscal cap, potentially rising to rupees 60 crore to offset the high cost of the software. Experts also expect dedicated manufacturing and parks to be classified as national critical infrastructure, ensuring priority power and water access. Number 5, on the tax front, a key demand is the correction of inverted duties, ensuring raw materials aren't taxed higher than the finished chips we import. And to drive innovation, there is a push to bring back the 200% weighted tax deduction on R&D expenditure. The government may also mandate local procurement, requiring state departments to buy electronics powered by designed in India chips. And finally, a massive focus on talent, with university partnerships aimed at training the 85,000 engineers needed to make India a global chip hub. What out of these expectations could be a part of the union budget is the big question, and what is the force that needs to be put behind it? We'll talk about this with our guest. Joining us on the show is Mr. Vinesh Menon, Director General and the CEO of Arise. Mr. Arun Mampaji, semiconductor professional and author, is also with us on the show. Dr. Sharad Kohli, senior economist, with us on the platform as well. Gentlemen, thank you so much for being here. Dr. Kohli, let's set the tone for this debate and come to you first. Semiconductors, well, an arena or an area where India has been trying extremely hard to penetrate as well as make a difference and alter the supply chains and the global economics through its creativity as well as government support. But so far, the advancements we have seen, Dr. Kohli, in this realm for India have been far in between. What can the union budget offer?
Good evening, Vineet, to you, my fellow panelists and NewsX viewers. I think this is one area which is close to the heart of the Prime Minister himself. And we are seeing the number of chips manufacturing units which are under setup. And I think you might see the first chip being sold anytime, I think around any part of the year, maybe somewhere in the middle of the year or end of the year or whatever, when the first chip comes out. And there is something called Pax Silica in America, where the new tech alliance which America is, and only the economic survey came today. In the economic survey, one of the very key challenges mentioned there is Pax Silica, which means America is trying to form this tech alliance. And the new gold for the world, I mean, apart from gold, it used to be oil and steel. And that's going to be, chips, AI data equipment, and rare earth minerals and so on. So that's, I think, the whole concept of what the world used to fight for, what the world used to consider as an asset, has seen a paradigm shift in terms of this. I think chip manufacturing, as far as India is concerned, I see the greatest challenge in what you spoke at the end. 85,000 engineers required, skilled professionals required going forward. I think that is a huge challenge, because I was speaking on a media platform today that they were asking for my wish list. And on the top of my wish list was focus on skill development, because the skills required for chip manufacturing, I think India has to prepare itself, because those 5-6 units which are coming up is not the end of the story. We should become a chip hub in the years to come. And for that, we do need professionals. So I think I'm expecting a government to throw some extra schemes out in the gauntlet for skill development in the chip sector, because this is one sector which can really put us on a different map altogether. And economic survey also, I'm correlating the economic survey to the budget expectations, and especially with regard to semiconductor chips. Economic survey categorically said that India will have to build a value chain. We cannot simply be back-end processors where we just sit down and keep doing back-end work, repetitive kind of work, which eventually get eaten up by artificial intelligence. We need to have something, and here's the point, and I think chips is one thing we can focus on. We need to have something where we can probably throw out our dominance in the world. What China has done, China today has control over rare earth minerals. China has control over so many things, which it can use as a bargaining power. So I feel India's bargaining power in the years to come could be chips and artificial intelligence related to that, chips which are facilitating artificial intelligence equipment, electronics, and other products. So I feel that chips there is one product, Vineet. And if economic survey was the cue to be taken, then I can tell you with conviction that in the budget on 1st of February, you are definitely going to find something very special about both skill development and how India can become a chip hub. And can chips be used as a bargaining power against the world when countries try and bully, when the countries try and express their selfish motives, when countries try and dictate terms, whether in terms of tariffs or other things. So that's my focus area, that I would want this country. Of course, we have other chip professionals with us, I can see on the screen. They'll be better equipped to speak on the technicalities of the chip. But I am seeing the commercial and the economic angle. We badly need something in our country, besides basmati rice, besides pharmaceuticals. We need something where we can twist the arms the way China has done, and the way Taiwan can do through TSMC and so on and so forth. We need that bargaining power in the years to come. And I think nothing better than budget to probably provide us that fuel to move ahead in that direction, Vineet.
You're absolutely right. And one big component that, you and I both have repeated since we started talking on this debate is skill development. And that's where Vinesh comes in. Skill development, of course, Vinesh, requires a certain preparation. It requires a certain architecture. It requires a certain infrastructure, which all emanates from the way we educate people in terms of the emerging technologies. How do you think India needs to prepare for that eventuality, Vinesh?
Yeah, hi Vineet. Can you hear me? Am I
yes,
clear?
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay. No, absolutely. I think Dr. Kohli said it all. You said it all. I think Mission Semiconductor 2.0, we should actually have a Mission Education 4.0 perhaps, because we've quite behind on that space. Look, exactly what both of you said, 85,000 skilled workers, engineers, how do you get there? Now, honestly, if you really look at what's been happening, India really doesn't suffer from the lack of education intent, okay? It's not suffering from the lack of spending, wanting to not spend. Spending announcements have been happening pretty much around in the last one or two budgets. But I think what it really suffers from is fragmented execution. It suffers from a fair amount of regulatory overload. And I guess definitely underinvestment in school capacity and people. Budget 2026 must move on from this. I think we've been focusing too much on the education space on schemes. It should move away from schemes to systems. It should start trusting teachers, street schools as nation building partners. The moment you start doing that, you would automatically get to resolve some of these big concerns that are happening. And that is a fundamental problem, which I think we must attempt to now try and fix. A lot of good work has happened in the past, work on digital infrastructure, work on attempting to bring in PM Shri schools. These are all good moves, but far too less in connect to the large workforce that we need, and connect to the reduction of school enrollments getting disrupted. These are the areas that we need to really work on. And unless we do that in this budget and work on execution, I think we would have a crisis.
All right, Arun, how are you looking at this as an opportunity to add some sort of galvanization into this space of semiconductors?
Yeah, hi Vineet. Couple of quick points. Firstly, on the budget front, because I've been following this. In fact, I wrote about needing it from 2020 onwards, and the policy came out and so on. So one of the key things to notice is that in 2021 December, when 76,000 crore allotment was announced, it was not as though the budget already had that money allocated and then the Ministry of Information and Electronics went ahead and announced it. It's the other way around. The announcement came first, and the budgetary allocations happen as and when somebody qualifies for the incentives. In the case of semiconductor mission, most of it is upfront, not necessarily after the production happens. But despite that, if you look at the numbers, in 2023-24, the budget had something around 680 crores out of the 76,000 crore full number. In 2024-25, the original number that was put out was 6,900. But at the end of the fiscal year, it was downgraded, or it was brought down. The actuals was only 3,816. And in 25-26, which is the current ongoing year, the allocation is 7,000 crore. In 2 or 3 days, we will know what is the revised budget. You add all these numbers, it still works out to be 12,000 crore, less than 12,000 crore, which is less than 1/6 of the 76,000 crore. So what is happening here? Either the projects are moving a little slow, or there are a lot of these paperwork and so on and so forth, pending which the actual money being paid out to the 10 different projects that are qualified for the manufacturing side, which includes both packaging as well as fab, as well as the design linked incentive scheme. So there's something happening there where the actual money being going to the people who are supposed to receive them are quite slow. Now, so if you extrapolate from there, even in this budget for the 2026-27, I am not expecting too big a number. It is still probably going to be twice of what was there last year if things have picked up speed. But it's still not going to probably make up even half of the 76,000 crore number. Now, extrapolated even further, you spoke about the need for ISM 2.0, which I totally agree to. But that does not necessarily need money being allocated in the budget ahead of time. The policy can be announced as long as there is an understanding between the Ministry of Information and Electronics and the Finance Ministry that you announce the scheme, you announce the allocation, and as and when you have qualified applicants, we will allocate the money. So this is overall how it's going to work. In other words, what I mean to say here is that from experience, I'm not that much worried seeing the budget numbers, but what is more important is how is the execution going on the ground. For that, I would say that it is happening, but slow, and especially on the skill part, the 85,000 engineer number is for design. For the fab and the packaging, it's not yet clear how the skilling is going or what the government is doing for that. In all of this, one key aspect that I've said in the past and I would like to repeat in the future, or for now and in the future, is that for such an important mission, for the India Semiconductor mission, the CEO continues to be the additional secretary of MIT. In my opinion, that is not the right thing to do. You need a full-time, technically competent, experienced person sitting there who can run around across the length and the breadth of the country, who does not have any other baggage to carry with him, and push and drive this. That's the only way the execution can become much faster and perfect.
You're quite right. And Dr. Kohli, of course, the international agreement factor also here has come to play at the right time, hasn't it? India has done an FTA with the European Union. That should facilitate a lot of technology transfer. Will also happen. Let's not forget that India imports 90% of its semiconductors, and this is a great opportunity.
Well, the European Union has already expressed its desire to set up, innovation hubs in India. But again, the problem zeroes in on the same thing. That is, we need to make sure that pull up the socks on the skills. Because you can set up innovation hubs, but what about the skilled professionals if they want to go and settle in America? Well, maybe not as much in America, but they want to look for their dreams abroad. So I think here is a time when these professionals should remain in India, and they should serve the country, and while of course making their career at the same time. And a small point about I would say backward integration, about the education, because see, when do you choose the career for chip? Either you are in one of the tech institutes, high-tech institutes. You're one of those reputed technology institutions where now I'm told that there are certain semiconductor specialized courses or semiconductor specialized through ISM being run. That's one, because the existing skill development ministry that we have in Government of India so that I know it is restricted to doing some courses at ITIs and this and that. It's been running. It's something better than nothing. But then I think the skill development ministry needs to gear up to prepare as well. While Indian Semiconductor Mission ISM, I don't know how far it is integrated with skill development ministry. We'll have to see. And I appreciate the point that the secretary cannot be the CEO of the mission. You need to have a highly technical qualified person having loads of experience in semiconductor and related industries. You need to have that kind of a person. But a word about education. What I find, Vineet, that me and you, when we went to our schools in the cities, they were public schools. You went to a good school. I probably went to a good school. So did my other two panelists. But what about big count of children who are going to schools in villages and tier 4 cities? I had a chance to visit that school, and I was trying to pick up these threads of skill development and education from there. And I found that the school, where there were about 500 students, it did not have a proper building. There was a broken blackboard. I found the number of teachers required were probably 7, 8. There were only 2 teachers in the school. I asked about extracurricular activities. They said hardly once in a while we take them to the picnic to a nearby park or something. And then I went to a public school and we studied there. We know what happens these days. There were electronic boards, there were air-conditioned classrooms, there were experts coming there to counsel on a regular basis. I've been to some schools, I've been to DPS also, to go and tell them about what startups are. And when I asked them to ask me questions, they had all sorts of questions, and you'll be surprised. One of the questions was that, can I have a career in semiconductors? That was one of the questions asked at one of the schools. Let me not name that school. The student asked me, he was a class 11 student. So I think the career building and career selection starts in the school. And I feel there is a huge gap between the way education is done in cities, especially in the public schools, and where most of our children study. I don't even want to say schools in the rural areas or tier 4 cities or whatever. Within Delhi or within Mumbai, you will find a lot of schools where they have no comparison. Now, my point is, Vineet, that what is the fault of that newborn child who got admitted in a school like that? Another child got admitted in probably a public school. Both the children were innocent. Both babies were innocent when they were born. When they were 3 years old, they were admitted to that school. Poor child, one product comes out of class 12. He has a lot of aspirations. He has a lot of input. His intellectual development is far different from that poor child who passed out from that rural school with a broken blackboard and just 2 teachers for 500 or 1,000 students. Now, I think that is where the big gap is. We must fill this gap if we want to reach Viksit Bharat. Pardon me, I'm slightly digressing from the topic, but this is directly related to skill development. I have to speak about this. That Viksit Bharat is 21 years away. If a child is born today, a baby is born today, he or she will be 21 years of age in 2047. If we want Viksit Bharat, we must fill up this gap in education. I would expect from the budget that apart from skill development, of course, we're talking of semiconductors today, and because it suddenly reminded me, I faced that question once. So I think something very seriously needs to be done on bridging this gap in education. I'm sure my fellow panelists would agree. And they have met children from villages. I have my driver's children. I have people who support me. I pity sometimes. What wrong has these children done? Why didn't they get the opportunity to study in a school which my child has or I had? I think this is where skill development starts. And I think this is way before semiconductor production starts, that the child needs to know what a semiconductor chip is, first of all. He or she will make a career in chip manufacturing. First of all, they should know that what are the complexities involved in chip, what is a chip, and what is my future in this particular thing. So I think, as they say, the charity should begin at the school level. You have to do the allocation and then come to skill development. I call this as backward integration of the discussion that we were doing until now, Vineet.
Valid points. And Vinesh, education and school play a big and pivotal role in just the generalization of these global concepts whose evolution is perhaps faster than our grasp. How can the education sector as well as the government come to terms with this space?
I think first of all, by doing a reality check, I think Dr. Kohli said it so beautifully. In fact, he's almost spoke half the things that I should be ideally saying. And this is one big elephant in the room that should be called out. I mean, even today, education spend is about 3% of GDP. This is back in the 60s, they wanted to take it up to 6%. It is still at 3%. And how can today's modern education ever move forward unless you start to get more spending in the education? Okay, fair enough. We cannot take it from within the system. Allow patient capital to come in. You need a lot of funding to come into the space. How do you do that? We continue to keep doing, a lot of these pilot projects. We must move from pilot projects to full-blown, permanent structures. And that is where we do have a bit of a situation. So if you ask me 3 or 4 clear fixes, we must move from schemes to systems. I think, like Dr. Kohli said, if you and honestly, the problem is not in the public. The problem is not in the it's across. Even if you look at 1.5 million of schools, about close to 40 of those, they have those systems which can actually help the education move forward. But the rest of them are under tremendous stress. So we must move from schemes to systems across the entire board. Teacher capacity mission, a huge priority. If you have to move into what Dr. Kohli and my fellow panelists Arun mentioned, we must completely change the way the teachers are designed today. NEP aligned teacher upskilling programs are absolutely critical. Credits, fellowships, the lot of inclusion of private school teachers in all national programs, absolutely critical. I think it's the biggest ROI lever that we should be getting in education. The whole concept of regulatory deregulation, trust-based oversight, I think today we are still sitting in an environment where the operator and the regulator are the same. Unlike, let's say, telecom sector, where there is a TRAI which comes out as an independent regulator to the entire telecom sector, be it BSNL or be it private players, there is an independent TRAI. We don't have that in the education space, which is very important. And we should start working on single window digital compliance for schools. Clear separation of academic quality versus administrative control. This is absolutely critical. That whole concept of academic quality enhancement has to come in. Formal recognition of private schools. The minute you get into formal recognition of private schools and make them a part of the larger ecosystem without having distrust, you could bring in PPP models. PPP models can help bring in a lot of changes: teacher training, infrastructure sharing, inclusive education, tax neutrality, credit access. There's so many things that one can start doing if you work on this. And finally, the concept of EdTech reset. Somebody mentioned about, the fact is that we need to somewhere start accreditation of EdTech schools. We need to drive a very clear procurement guidelines. I still remember the recent justice framework that changed. There was some exciting news which had come out on the education. Great stuff happened. On the education front, they actually made maps, erasers, pencils, pens, etc. into a 0% framework, stating that these are very important triggers or these are very important levers for delivering education in the classroom. We have moved far from that kind of an environment. We have to now start doing the same thing for technology products. We have to start doing the same thing for smart boards and experiential teaching mechanics. How do you not, if you don't do that, why would schools invest? And if you don't invest, how do you start doing what Dr. Kohli said, which is to teach semiconductor kind of a curriculum inside the schools? So I think budget 26 should be, in short, remembered as a year when we move away from simply, painting the walls, and we should actually fix the problem. We should actually get deep in. We do not need more pilot projects. We need more scalable schools. We need more scalable trust in building infrastructure around the entire spectrum. And I love what Dr. Kohli talked about: 2 children being put in the same school, or 2 different kinds of schools, growing up and then having 2 very different outcomes. And that is going to be one big challenge that India is going to face: the digital divide, or the sheer divide between a few children who have the resources and the capability to possibly do that little extra, the extra outcomes in terms of getting taught, versus the children who possibly cannot, simply because he or she is not getting exposed to the resources. This should change, especially in India, where I think about close to 260 million kids are studying, and if we do not take care of equity in the entire spectrum, I suspect we're going to have a serious problem going forward. And again, Viksit Bharat 2047, if we don't fix it today, we can kiss the next 10 to 15 years, goodbye. I genuinely believe we need to make these changes. Yeah.
You're quite right, Vinesh, and I appreciate your feedback and thoughts on this important conversation. We've run out of time, but thank you, gentlemen, for being a part of this debate. We're going to quickly jump into a very short break. More on the other side.